The steal by Iverson, posting in. He wins it. He won the game. Be there to say absolutely no. Three from Scott. Yeah, do you love this game?
Yes, back like we never left. It is the Sixers Talk Podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. WilmU works. I feel energized, rejuvenated after the MLK Day weekend. And it's Danny Pommells and Ben Berry rocking out with you. Kevin Rice is crushing grapes at the winery, so he will join us on the next podcast. But Ben, a weird state of affairs. I think Sixers fans are just hanging on, waiting for all this COVID stuff to try to pass. The team landed back in Philadelphia yesterday, thankfully, after being quarantined in Oklahoma City, where their game was canceled, or postponed to be played at a later date because of contact tracing dating back to their game the night before on Saturday against the Memphis Grizzlies. Supposedly, Valanciunas had a positive COVID test, and the Sixers obviously were bumping elbows and playing basketball with them the night before. So there we had it. They were asked to leave the court 2 hours before tip-off, and just it's so uncanny, man, that I don't know. I guess as Sixers fans who have often felt snake bitten, you start 7-1, and here you are 4-2 thereafter with this hodgepodge lineup with injuries and COVID stuff. Are you feeling the snake bitten vibe, Ben? Do you feel like this is just adversity that they'll just have to overcome normally, or was this something that you didn't foresee and felt like, why us type of thing?
Ooh, so the injuries and the COVID tracing protocols, didn't see that coming. I know every NBA season, every team they're going to deal with injuries, and it's the roll of the dice. Some teams get lucky, some teams don't. COVID thing, I don't think no one saw that coming. And especially how the Sixers got rocked with it. Then being forced to play a game, was that a Saturday afternoon game against the Nuggets?
Yeah, the Denver game.
Yeah. So those things are unfortunate. I think even though you can't see that happening, you would have had to think it's going to catch us sometime sooner or later. I'm sure every team in the league is going to get hit with it. So when it comes season end, no one can say, "Oh, we lost because we had this player sit out." That it's going to hit the Lakers at some point. It's going to hit the Rockets. It's going to hit the Nets. It's just life is unpredictable, but I think it's going to hit everyone. Injuries, again, you can't predict those. The team's bad play now.
They were playing good, though. They were 7-1. They were the best team in the NBA. And then all of a sudden,
they were playing teams that weren't good. The Cavs were good at one point in the East. And some of these teams had good records. I don't think anyone would call those the upper echelon of the East. So what drove it home for me, or what points it out, is when they lost to that undermanned Nets team. The team, KD didn't play that night. Kyrie, I don't know when's the last time he's played, but he didn't play that night.
He wasn't on the court then, right?
Yeah. The Sixers just look out of place, out of sorts, overmatched, and just out of their league.
Well, when you go back to that game, definitely a game where you wanted them to show up and ball out, and they didn't quite do that. But you think back on it, that was the game where Seth Curry was asked to leave in the first quarter. I just don't know what effect or distraction that felt that, like, did they feel like, oh, like something's up, and was that like something lingering in the back of their mind? I mean, who knows? I mean, it's weird that from that game, Ben Simmons didn't want to stay in New York, supposedly, based on that report from Vincent Goodwill of Yahoo Sports. Like, I don't know. Something weird happened there that didn't quite make sense. And since then, Ben hasn't even been himself, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I don't know if every team's going to be affected. I just know that my team has been affected, the team that I hope does well and goes far. So it's just Sixers fans already feel a little bit of that cloud hanging over them. And then like something like this happens and it just exacerbates that. But I think that the Sixers, is obviously a lot of ways they could go, but if they could use the adversity and the fact that they were, in this situation to bring them closer together, maybe it pays off for them in the long run. Even with all of this going on with them, Charles Barkley didn't back down from picking them once again to come out of the East, because he feels like them not getting Harden alleviates pressure off of Ben Simmons. Meanwhile, Harden is balling out in Brooklyn and just letting the Sixers fans know what they're missing. But I don't know, man. I just feel like if Sixers fans probably would have said if any team is going to happen to us here before the season. Then it happens, and you're kind of like just dealing with it. So it's just a weird limbo type of space to be in, where everyone has expectations of how far the team's going to go. We haven't even seen them on the court in so many weeks altogether. You know what I'm saying? So, and now, Ben had to get treatment for his knee. Is his knee bothering him? What's wrong with Ben? Is he not quite himself? And then Seth Curry has been the one, like, this dude was setting the league on fire with his shooting percentages and just his consistent play. And now this dude has been in mothballs. So it's just weird, man. It's just disjointed and odd.
It's unfortunate. It's disjointed. I think when you were on vacation in Tahiti or Costa Rica, as Kevin said, and when just me and him, we were talking, and he was a little higher on the Sixers than I was. And
right.
I said the good start to the season is nice, but the real challenge starts at the end of the month when they face Boston, which is later this week, and that back-to-back. Miami's coming. Not Miami. LA's coming up when they start facing some of these better teams. So everyone is paid to play, and they beat who was on the schedule. I just didn't want to buy into it. It's unfortunate now that these good teams are coming up, and
but they're not. They don't have that momentum, right?
People are injured. People are got to sit out for COVID tracing. So I still feel like after the next week or two, we still won't really know what the Sixers are.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I don't like the idea of that. Of another 2 weeks passing, basically the end of January, and we still don't know. The trade deadline is coming up in March. I think they need to do something by the trade deadline, because even though the 7-1 start, it's just that start is the momentum you use to get over the hump when you play the tough part of the schedule, because you can kind of lean on that success to kind of mitigate the wounds and injuries you might take from these better teams. You know what I'm saying? It's just a little uncomfortable, because you just play that what if game. But I'm interested to see how they perform, what they do here. I mean, you name those 3 nationally televised games. Like, both Boston games are on TV, and the Lakers game. And Detroit is in between there. But listen, man, you can't come out on national TV and showing all these bumps and bruises and whatnot, and be worse to wear from what you've been through. Like, they got to rise to the occasion, particularly against a team that did them real dirty in the playoffs last year. Boston just smacked them around and moved on to the Eastern Conference Finals eventually. But I don't know, man. I'm optimistic that they can bring it together, but at the same time, it's just that, man, why us type of thing that lingers with me. But hopefully this is the cathartic moment I can process those feelings and lose the bitterness, and then just go back to just watching the games.
There's 7 games left in the month. 4-3 with health and COVID protocols.
Okay.
Will be optimistic.
So you're saying Minnesota, Indiana, Detroit, and both Detroit games maybe lose to both Boston and the Lakers?
I think 4-3 to finish out the month is the bare minimum.
Do you think they beat Boston once and do you think they beat, what do they do in those 2 Boston games and the Lakers? Do you think they go 3-0, 2-1, 1-2?
Ooh, you put me on the spot.
I did a little bit, my bad, bro.
If they go 1-2 and win the rest of the games this month, I think that would be great. That'd be 5-2 to finish out the month.
Yeah, that would be I think they could split Boston.
Yeah, I think that's splitting Boston. Who knows what happens with the Lakers? I think they have to win the rest of those games. Both games against Detroit, beat Minnesota, beat the Pacers. I think that's the key. Win the games you're supposed to win.
Those are 3 home games, though. So they play Boston at home. I don't know what that means to players now, considering, besides sleeping in your own bed, but they play Boston both at home and the Lakers at home. So that is maybe that helps them, pull it out. All month long, NBC Sports Philadelphia presents Headstrong, Men's Health in Sports. Headstrong, a series about men's health told through powerful stories involving the athletes we love. Learn more on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com/Headstrong. We find ourselves in a bit of a conundrum, Mr. Ben Berry, because Ben Simmons, your namesake, is in a bit of a flux as far as his the start of his season is going, because it's just when you watch him, the numbers. Well, when you watch him is one thing. The numbers are something else. But when you watch him, you've noticed the difference in like the flow and the rhythm just hasn't been there. We talked about it on other podcasts. Just he hasn't quite been on his game like you would expect, and he's doing all the same things he normally does, but just kind of like the timing is off, and the point in the game where he decides to drive hard to the basket and kick it out it's not quite as effective as it normally is. So we're kind of at we're in the wake of him not being traded for James Harden and all the rumors and speculation, and Keith Pompey reporting that the team told Ben and Matisse that they were, going to be traded. And then obviously you have to fall back from that. Ben is saying all the right things, saying he's a professional and, he's just going to go out and do his job and whatnot. But something's not quite right with him. He's definitely not playing at an all-star level, considering he's made the all-star team the past couple seasons. It's debatable whether he's playing at an all-defensive level. What have you seen from Ben? What are you thinking? What is your impression of what you've seen, Ben?
The first thing I've seen from the NBA's Chris Brown, for anyone following a little social media, and Danny just found that out. It's a little fun interaction. It's hilarious.
Hilarious, bro. I mean, like, just real life stuff you can't duplicate.
So Simmons has been passive at the rim. I don't know why that is, but usually whoever's guarding him 9 times out of 10 is a smaller player. I think we can all agree on that. So I don't know what's happened, but other teams usually have smaller guards on him. He gets to the rim and he dishes it out, whether it's for someone trailing, whether it's for someone that's behind the 3-point line. Ben passes it out, and the smaller defenders around him, they can collapse, but also get back to the 3-point line in time. We've seen it at the Wizards game 2 weeks ago when he drove into the basket and kicked it out. Don't know who he's passing to for beginners, but the Wizards had the defenders pick up and jump the passing lane. And the other thing is his unwillingness to take over and just dominate someone that's smaller than him. I think of LeBron James in that 2010, 2011 NBA Finals, I believe. Heat versus the Mavs, when LeBron was being defended by J.J. Barea. LeBron should just taken him to school over and over again. Ben doesn't do that. I don't know why. I've heard him say his job is to create assists, create for other players to get open shots. But when you have someone smaller than you, you got to take him to school. That's one of the first things I've noticed.
Yeah, he's not the guy that's just going to look for his offense like that. And, yeah, it's weird that, a 6'10 dude, legit 6'10 dude, doesn't try to, take, like you said, Chip Kelly had the famous phrase of, big people eat little people. Why doesn't Ben just go out there and just, dominate and whatnot, like Zion maybe or what have you? I don't know. His mentality as a ball player is more of a creator, and he's not going to go out there and cook and get you like a purposeful 25. He's going to get his organically in the flow of the game, putbacks and transition and fast break and being in the dunker spot and things like that. I put that out on Twitter, what I just said just now, and Jason Dumas was like, you just described a role player, basically. So I'm like, so yeah, in some aspects that is there, but I think the eliteness for Ben Simmons is it's the package of all those things that make him, a dynamic player. It's just you haven't seen those things clicking all at the same time with him. You have maybe in short spurts, but it just hasn't been a great bonfire of a start of a season for him. So I'm just like, man, you just see so many of his warts, specifically in games where you're asking him to go out and score and be, dominant offensively. And that's just not who he is, man. He's just not that type of player. And I think, but when his role is different, when there's the full complement of Seth Curry, Danny Green, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris around him, he's just been pushing the rock, finding people. It just looks a lot different. So I think it's a little bit of everything where when he's not playing the role he needs to play as a distributor, it exacerbates all those other things that he can't do really well. And then he's also in a bit of a slump with his numbers are down, his turnovers are up, his player efficiency rating is down. What'd you say?
4.2 turnovers per game.
Man. So it's like, gosh, like what is happening? Like this is the point guard, and if it was Russell Westbrook or somebody like that, you would like, they'll shoot their way out of it or something like that. But he's not going to shoot his way out of it. So there has to be like this Celtics game is a great opportunity, brother. I see this as a moment where, hey, man, you got to show up. This is a team that has shown a propensity to exaggerate your weaknesses and they play off of Ben and dare him to shoot and all that type of stuff. So this is the game where he can come out and play really well and kind of shake off some of that negativity.
Going back before I move on, having smaller players on him. TLC and Grayson Allen have no business mixing it up with Ben Simmons. No business.
Grayson Allen was in between him and the basket a few times, and I was like, man, that just looks like barbecue chicken to me. I don't know why Ben. You can see the size difference, as far as height and girth, and it's like, Ben, like take him to the hoop, bro. Like Grayson Allen is standing between you.
What made me really annoyed by that? For everyone listening, we have a video producer, Spencer McKerster. He works on our Duke Philly stuff.
Yeah.
But did he go to Duke or is he just a fan?
I don't know if he didn't go to Duke. He went to Westchester, man.
He be repping Duke like he went.
He loves Duke, man.
He'd be like, yo, those my boys.
Wait. He loves Duke and he loves Florida football. So you piece it all together if you want, but
my head's starting to hurt. But when Grayson Allen is down there mixing it up with Ben, I love Spence to death. I was like, yo, Spence is loving this right now. So I was getting super annoyed.
I wish you had texted him to see what he said. He probably gave some just over-the-top response, just like, he loves
ACC Player of the Year or something like that.
Yeah, Grayson Allen defender.
So, all right, I think defenses are adjusting to Ben. We see it in the playoffs, but I think we're starting to see it in the regular season when they can just sag off him, dare him to shoot. And it's just not good. It's questions remain about his health because is the knee a thing? Is it not a thing? It doesn't give me hope or doesn't leave me feeling optimistic moving forward.
Yeah.
So it comes back to a week ago, like the question was, would you give up Ben for James Harden? And it's just maybe the Sixers missed their opportunity. Who knows? But the way Ben is playing does not make me feel good moving forward.
Or the way Ben is playing and the way James is playing, because he looks like just like a force, man. I mean, we knew that already, but for him to change teams and just the game just kind of comes with him is definitely like you're trying to win a title. Yeah,
change teams and change waistline. How my boy gets slipped so quick?
He went from Professor Clump to his alter ego in a hurry.
I need to know who his trainers are, his nutritionists. It's insane.
He probably just hit the cardio and started eating clean, like the last 4 days, and just shed some of that. Obviously,
40 pounds.
Is crazy. I mean, his metabolism, he probably was bloated. Who knows? His metabolism is crazy, probably. You know what I mean? So
drop weight like a prize fighter, UFC or boxing.
Hey, bro, and came out just giving people buckets. But I think that's the thing is like, we can talk about it, and we have discussed it before, but like there's other options for the Sixers out there if they do want to move on from Ben. But I don't know if the trade rumors are affecting them. I don't know if it's the knee. You have games like the Grizzlies where you need him to step up because Joel is out, who's also dealing with a knee issue. So, and then you don't get that production from Ben in a way that will help you overcome a team that, you can beat. It's frustrating. And I think for Ben's sake, we see him in the summer league and these pickup games playing a different game to me than the game he plays in the NBA games. Like we see these summer league games and the pickup games, and the summer league is going back because, obviously he hasn't played summer league in a long time, but from his rookie season and the game you saw then coming out of college and how he plays, when he's with Chris Johnson and all these people, these other NBA players working out, you see the jumper more, you see him doing more stuff off the dribble and going to the basket, where I can't count how many times he does that hard drive and maybe jump pass or that hard drive and then kick out to the corner. Like, it's just like dog, you're like a freight train full steam ahead, and then you bail the defender out by passing the ball. So I just want some consistency. I want to see some growth, and instead of growth, I'm maybe seeing some regression, and that just kind of just plays in my head a little bit with like his identity, what I'm watching, who he is, and whatnot. It's just a lot going on, and it's hard to figure out the thoughts when he's giving you different looks all the time.
So something we talked about before the segment was, and it goes back to a previous pod, I don't think Ben has developed since he came into the NBA. I think he's the same player. You disagree. A lot of our fans and listeners disagree. People say all defense NBA team. I think defense is effort and awareness. I don't think that's something you go in the gym for 3 hours and work on to get better.
I think that that you have a point. I think that he has grown, and the jump shot, the offensive game hasn't grown, though. That's the thing. So, maybe he's grown, and our defense is about effort, but there's also like help defense. There's also like, steals and blocks and things like that. So maybe some of that's about effort. Some of that also maybe, understanding your body more. This dude's 19 when he comes into the league. Like so maybe he's grown into his body more and things like that. So does that have anything to do with his actual production and play? No. That's just his body just kind of coming to his own. So I don't know, man. I'm not high on Ben right now, so it's hard for me to defend him in that way and point out, oh, yeah, well, he's grown here and grown there, because I still see him missing layups at the rim that he maybe should dunk or maybe put in the other hand. I don't see him taking more jump shots. Well, you know what? I do see him taking more jump shots because he took 3 in the game against the Grizzlies. One of them was an air ball in the fourth quarter. One was a fadeaway, and then he had maybe he took 4 jumpers, but he had 1 in the corner as well. 2 in the corner, I think he shot. So he took 4 jumpers. So, all right. So, but are they going in? Like, no, they're not going in. So I see, I do think he feels pressure, particularly with Doc Rivers here, these other NBA players coming in who can't shoot. And I'm sure they're calling him out or asking him about it and things like that. Whether it's in a joshing, jovial way or maybe them roasting them or whatever, but they call him out and wonder and encourage him to shoot, I'm sure. So maybe he's getting more comfortable. Maybe we're seeing something, in him that maybe will pay off later in the season. But as of right now, I'm not very high on him. So I'm disappointed in some of his play. I want to figure out what's going on with him. His behavior with the whole Brooklyn driving home thing. I haven't made sense of that yet. And I don't know if it's the knee affecting him or the mental makeup of him being a franchise player, but also being on the trading block at times. So I don't know, man. I need Ben to help me figure it out rather than me just keep speculating. Us keep speculating. Start college, build skills, and complete your degree with Wilmington University. 100% online options and affordable tuition make WilMU work for you. Learn more at wilmu.edu. So on one end of the spectrum, you could say is Ben Simmons. At the other end is Tyrese Maxey, because lo and behold, Maxey's play and his rhythm and hitting the ground running as an NBA player suddenly has made Ben a little more expendable, particularly with the ball in his hands. So, Ben, you can play the 4, buddy, because we got Tyrese Maxey who can bring the ball up. Ben, you can have a seat for a little bit because Tyrese Maxey is going to run the show. I don't know if Ben deferred to Maxey for that final shot against the Grizzlies because of how well he was playing instead of shooting it himself. I think that's a question a lot of people are wondering about. You know, the Sixers get the ball in the front court, and instead of Ben taking a shot and trying to tie the game, he passes to Maxey for a last-second heave. Just the reluctance to shoot, the reluctance of, like, knowing, you know, hey, I can do this rather than me setting somebody else up to do it. So even with that being said, Maxey, regardless of Ben, has turned heads and garnered attention just because of his play in and of itself. How that relates to Ben is easy to see because, you know, you got 2 point guards who just play a different style of basketball. But, man, fun to watch. The in-between game with Maxey is crazy with the floaters and the jumpers and whatnot. And, I would love to see him and Shake go one-on-one. Just like one of those after practice on the side court, Shake and Tyrese is in their bag, like going at each other. I'm sure that would be fun. But, I mean, what's not to like about this kid? I mean, some people think he might be the best rookie in the league at right now. Debatable, but he's in the conversation.
Again, shout out to Kevin Rice. Before the draft, he wanted Maxey to fall to the
He was
Sixers.
high on him. Yeah.
I was skeptical. I openly admit I don't watch college basketball, but I was skeptical. Like, do the Sixers need another 6'1", 6'2" guard? I wanted a 3-and-D guy. Man, I am happy the Sixers took
if
Maxey.
they're 6'2" from Kentucky, you might want to reconsider, right?
I am happy the Sixers – the kid is fun to watch. Like, if he was on a bad team that was 2-10, I would watch because the kid can ball. He's shooting 47.7% from the field, which is nearly unheard of from a rookie. He's averaging, 19.4 points a game in 32 minutes? Yo, the kid is fun to watch. He has
Wait.
I think he might have that.
He ain't quite averaging 19 a game. I think he averaging about 12 a game. But I feel you. It's close. I just feel like when I look at him, it's like the change of pace is elite. Like when I elite at times, it's times where he stops on the dime and goes the other direction, and the defender is just like out of the picture. Like you can forget about it. So, and I think like, you know, we're also seeing like even keel, like not too high, not too low. Like he gets the the fast break dunk. Like he's back on defense, like no celebrating, like no hot dogging or any of that. Not that there's not room for that, but to him, he's focused on like the next play. And, you know, he comes out after that 39-point performance when nobody was, you know, able to play and against Denver. And he's like, I was trying to do anything to help my team win. So, hey, man, the mentality is there. You see him on draft night talking about his dad and the, you know, the battles that they used to have because his dad used to wear him out and never let him win. And he used to go in the house crying and stuff like that. And, man, he's fun to watch. Great, apparently, because that's the same thing I do to my son. But he's focused. He's fun to watch. You know, once again, the whole snake bitten thing sometimes lingers in my head. I just hope he stays healthy and can go out there and just continue to grow and produce because the Sixers need him, man. And his play at the point guard is like the crutch for Ben Simmons right now because it kind of takes a little bit of the spotlight at times off of Ben Simmons and his lack of production. So, hell of a pick, man. Probably the best rookie they've had in a long time. It
was 19.4 since his 30-point performance. That's what it was.
Okay, got you. My bad. Yep.
I love watching Maxey play. I'm glad the Sixers didn't make the deal for Harden because Maxey would have been involved in that, according to all reports.
So you wouldn't have done it because Maxey was involved?
You can't give up both of your point guards.
Right.
Especially if you like both of them. I know it's a whole thing that John Wall and Ben Simmons won't work well together, whatever, for Houston. But if you're giving up Ben, I think that's because you believe Maxey is a capable point guard.
Void, right?
Yeah. And I think that's completely reasonable. Why give up both of them? That just doesn't make much sense to me.
It's tough. I kind of questioned you on the Maxey thing and the Harden trade because I just watched him last night in that Nets game, and he just, man, him and KD are just flowing, bro. But to me, it's like, how could the Sixers have even, obviously you have to have a list of teams. You can't just hone in on one, which kind of came back and bit James Harden a little bit, and he expanded his list because people knew where he wanted to go. But you see him, and he's flowing so hard with KD, like who's his friend, and that's part of the reason why he wants to go there. How can the Sixers have even hold a candle to what, like, his friend isn't on this team. There's nobody on this team that he's really close and tight with. Like, why would the Sixers? All right, but like Morey ain't on the court. Like him and Morey ain't going to get cheesesteaks and driving the AC. After the game or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Seeing the people, like he's friends with Meek and Lil Uzi. Like, he's not hanging out with like Daryl Morey. Like, I don't believe that. But hey, maybe things aren't what they seem. But at the same time, I just don't see how he would fit in as well as he's fitting in Brooklyn here in Philly, considering he wants to play with KD. And the Sixers don't have any other guys who are on the wing that's going to like dominate. Like it's like him and KD play like on one wing. KD's on one wing, James on another. James is taking some dude to the basket. KD's crashing the boards. Like, it's like a match made in heaven in some ways. That's the way it looks out right now. But I don't see how that would have been as successful here in Philly. There would have been some success, but not quite like what he's doing with KD.
It'll be fun when Kyrie comes back.
I don't know what that's going to look like, and they talked about it a lot on after the game. But I think the Sixers could give them a run for their money because I feel like Joel would be dominating DeAndre Jordan. Like, he can't stop Joel. So I think the Sixers have an advantage when they play the Nets, but I want to see their full complement.
I don't know how it's going to work out in the court between those three. It'll either be very good or very funny. I'm here for both.
We know what you were here for, Ben. They're definitely here for the jokes, but I think it'll be better than people think. I think Kyrie is a little misunderstood, but it's worth mentioning, since we're bringing up Kyrie, according to Steven Jackson, Kyrie bought George Floyd's family a house. So add that to the list of goodwill he spread this offseason, along with paying, WNBA players' salaries during the pandemic, or paying $1.5 million toward their salaries, and then what did he do? 200,000 Beyond Burgers to the New York Food Bank. You could go on and on. He's done a few things that have just turned your head and shown his goodwill. I don't know what's going on with the team and why he's not there, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You take the yin and the yang with people because no one is just one thing. But Tyrese Maxey seems to be a dialed-in basketball player. Happy to have him on this team. We need more Tyrese Maxeys, right? Can we get some more Tyrese Maxeys?
That would not be a complaint from me for having more Tyrese Maxey. More guys that can ball, more guys that can create, more guys that can shoot.
Can we tell the people about the fun pod that's coming up?
Yes. Thursday, we'll have a crossover pod with the Celtics. On Thursday, we'll have a crossover pod with the Celtics Talk Podcast from Boston. Should be fun. We should get them back from the last one we did in August after the Sixers proceeded to get their head bashed in the playoffs.
Man, did they ever. So back-to-back games against the Celtics this week. We will be doing that podcast with the Boston guys. Hopefully they don't try to drag us too bad about what happened over the summer, but it'll be fun. Chris Forsberg and all those guys are very well-informed folks, and I wish we had a Jason Tatum, but I digress. Be sure to join us for that as we'll dive deeply into this matchup with the Sixers, and we appreciate you guys listening as always. For Ben Berry and Kevin Rice, I'm Danny Pommells. Thanks for listening. This has been the Sixers Talk Podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilmington Works.